Gorfy, hey, how's it going? Yeah, quite all right, man. How's it going? Nice of you to join. So you asked at the perfect time. I think this morning, well, at least my morning. You asked when if I could stream on some UK or EU friendly hours. So yeah, so this is my normal time on Saturday. So Saturday's 3 CST roughly. There we go. Had to turn my headphones down. Whoa, they're loud in my ears. Still trying to get used to my newer setup, which is earbuds. Because man, it gets hot with headphones on. Maybe in the wintertime I'll switch back, but man, it's gets sweaty up in here. So how's it going, Gorfy? Looks like need to start packing up for a trip. Have a good stream. Thank you. Appreciate it. Enjoy your trip. Hope all's well with you. Phantom Way. I'm on the other hand shopping at Costco. Nice. Picking up anything awesome? Nice of you to join from Costco. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Maybe it wasn't you, Gorfy. Sorry, I totally must have mixed up the messages in Discord. That's right. You're in Tennessee. That's right. We've talked about this because we had to talk about Nashville and live music and stuff like that. Yeah, Discord messages were flooding in this morning, so I need to get caught up. Yeah, hope's all well. Hope you're gonna enjoy your trip. Boy, how's it going, man? How you been? Haven't seen you in a while. What's new? What game are you playing, boy? Carlos, hey, how's it going? Howdy. How are you? Hopefully you get your Twitch bot running. I'm gonna adjust this audio real quick. But yeah, Carlos, how's it going? Hopefully, like I mentioned just a second ago, hopefully you get your Twitch bot running. Hopefully it's running your friend's channel, I think you said. Awesome. Phantom Way food shopping, but I saw your notification come in. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for at least popping in for a second. Yeah, food shopping, I hear you. Yeah, grocery shopping on Saturdays, that's got to be rough, especially Costco. This is like their peak time right now, depending on where you are. Grocery shopping in general, I think most people do it on Saturdays and some on Sundays. And that has a lot to do with either, their schedule or it could be with sales. But yeah, man, thanks for hopping in while you're doing some grocery shopping. Appreciate it. Boy, what up? Nothing, just got off Tarkov. Man, I still haven't played Tarkov. I haven't totally figured out Tarkov yet. Escape from Tarkov. I've seen a ton of people playing it, but it's the raid part, I guess, is what I don't understand in dailies. It kind of seems like an RPG, but a first-person shooter, or third, I guess it's third, right? Yeah, because it's kind of over the shoulder. But yeah, it looks sweet. I know a ton of people play it. I just haven't myself yet. Carlos, yep, gonna do some more tests again today when they go live. Nice. That's very nice of you to write this Twitch bot for them for their stream. That's super awesome. Sweet. Did you add any additional features, or are you just kind of relying on the stuff that's there? I know all the events fire. Some don't fire properly. But yeah, did you add any additional commands? Curious to know what you've added to it, if anything. None is also an acceptable answer. It's a solid 4 to 5 month learning curve. Yeah, I bet. I kind of hear that too from people, at least on Twitter, and then a few people in another Discord community I'm in. They talk about it. I still don't understand the rating piece, but I mean, if it's like any other game and RPG and rating, I kind of understand. But like when you raid, do you like bring gear with you into the actual raid and you have the possibility to lose it? I don't know. This is all like stuff I'm gathering from people's comments on Twitter and Discord. Almost as horrid as EVE Online. So you bring your own gear, and if you die, someone loots it and you lose it. Haha. Okay, yeah. So that's kind of what I picked up a little bit from Twitter and another Discord community that I'm in, because people were talking about bringing certain types of gear, and I was like, okay, well that's cool. That like the RPG aspect of it, and then just like the difficulty aspect of it too, or I guess roguelike aspect of it too. If you bring your good gear and then you die and then you lose it, you gotta give it up. Yeah, it's an interesting take. It sounds awesome. And aren't there dailies and stuff like that too? Something like, are there quests? I just got off because I lost 1.1 million in a kit. It had, which is a lot. Yeah, a million anything sounds like a lot. even in like well, when I used to play WoW, you know, they inflated all the hit points so much that even a million hit points in WoW was a ton, or health points. Yeah, there are quests. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Gorfy, yeah, Tarkov is interesting. You have two options to play. One, your character, your character. You lose in game based on if you die or make it out, whatever you loot. Two, you can play as a basic RNG player called Scav, and they just have random gear. And if you make it out, you can keep the gear on the Scav. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah, so, okay, so two modes then. Oh, I see. Yeah, so then there's the, you know, the big decision. Do you bring in like your main and have the possibility to lose, you know, all of your stuff, but you're probably, you know, a lot more powerful and beefed up so you can progress, or you bring in the Scav, who, you know, just has basic gear, probably doesn't have a ton of abilities or power to scave. Okay, loot equals scave. Gotcha. Yeah, I get it, man. That puts an additional kind of meta around the game too, which is interesting. That sounds awesome. I like games where you have to make tough decisions like that for sure. Carlos, I kind of tried to add a command that looks up an object in an array depending on what they write in chat, but it's still not working. Okay. Yeah, maybe I can help sometime. With an object in an array, I mean, you can do it's JavaScript, so you can do an array.find, which will loop over those arrays and look for, you know, or elements, and look for some kind of property or some kind of key that you have set, and then you can return it back. So you can do a for each, do a for loop, you can do a filter, you can do a sum, a lot of array methods you can use. But yeah, if you need a hand or need some more eyes on it, yeah, feel free to post it in our Discord in the code channel. A lot of people who would love to lend a hand. Scave is limited to once every 20 minutes. Okay. All right, exactly. Loot equals scave. Yeah, I'm kind of behind. I'm like jumping around in comments, but I'm caught up now. At least I see some more Gorfy ones down there, so I'll get to them here in a second. Home Lab New. Hey, I remember that name. I think from last time, either from Tuesday or Thursday, I saw the follow. Hey Techno, nice vid. I've been debating exactly how to architect my home lab, both from a physical and a logical perspective. So the virtualization video definitely helped. How do you find performance on Proxmox as a Type 1 hypervisor? Hey, Creamy Ken, like the name. Thanks for the follow. Thank you so much. Yeah, I love seeing my Mario Luigi GIF. It's not mine, it's from the internet, but it's so awesome. So thank you, appreciate that. How do I find the performance? Yeah, so good question. The performance for me in what I do is difference, I guess, for me is negligible. I'll say this, like ESXi and VMware is an awesome, like you mentioned, is a Type 1 hypervisor, like super awesome, super performant. Like their OS that they run on is totally bare bones and all geared towards performance, security, and, you know, to fit into their ecosystem. So they've had a lot of time to tune it, and it's a paid product, so they have a lot of money behind it too. So I haven't done any, like, you know, deep dives on like the actual performance, but what I can say is I run some pretty sensitive workloads and some pretty intense workloads on my servers, and Proxmox so far has had zero problems doing that. Like I kind of show in that video, like FreeNAS for one is virtualized, which, you know, not a ton of performance concerns there, but at the same time, very important and sensitive in general. And then like my Blue Iris home security, like very sensitive to network, very sensitive to CPU, is very demanding because it's, you know, doing encoding of whatever clips, videos, and at the same time it's receiving, you know, a stream of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 megabits per second per camera to that virtual device. So no problems there. I run one mixer stream 24/7 all the time. It's running right now, not this channel, but another one. Very sensitive, and on top of that, it's very, on top of that, it's an interactive channel, so people can interact with it. So, and it connects to a database. So very sensitive to timing, to latency. It requires a GPU pass-through, and then on the timing piece, has to be synced up, you know, in near real time with the commands that people are passing in. And zero problems there. I mean, you know, there's a little jitter or latency, but you know, that can be blamed on, you know, the network between here and Twitch, or the hypervisor itself. So long story short, everything you saw in there, I'm able to do, no problems whatsoever, and I had plenty of room for expansion. I know that having a Dell R710, you know, with 24 logical cores definitely helps out. But I mean, my second Proxmox server is my old gaming PC, and that works totally fine. So sorry, that was a really long answer to, yes, ESXi I think is going to perform better, but I think the performance difference is not something that I would notice on a day-to-day basis all day with my servers. So long story short, that's where I'm at right now. And it's fantastic. It's open source, easy to update, easy to modify if you want. So, and apologize, I'm looking over here because chat's over there. I haven't figured out a great situation to like look in the camera and talk. So anyways, but yeah, so yeah, great question though. Oh, Gorfy, I'm so behind. Sorry, bud. The interesting thing is how granular the menu and equipment part of the game is. You can modify any weapon just about as granular as you could in real life. That's awesome. And that is me being more literal than exaggerating. That's awesome. So you can totally customize each gun, I assume, with maybe clip, barrel, handle. I don't know. I don't know enough about firearms, but I'm assuming those are the types of things that you would want to customize. But that sounds awesome. I can get into that because I love, in games, especially RPGs, I love crafting and I love customization. And that's what, you know, draws me to a lot of RPGs, if I had the time to go deep on those types of games. Otherwise, I'm just platformer because it's like, it's all, you know, Twitch as in the skill, Twitch-based games with very precise moves and lots of repetition. And some simplicity around it. But yeah, Escape from Tarkov sounds super awesome. Sounds like something I would go crazy on and go super deep. Creamy Ken, thanks bud. Just watched your latest YouTube video and sub there too. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. I don't have YouTube subs wired up to here, but I don't know if that would make sense on Twitch, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Your videos have been really helpful, helping me on my home lab journey and first dive into Docker and Rancher. Cool. That's awesome. I know that Docker and Rancher is, it can be super confusing and hard. And I don't mean to always like push my my infrastructure and, you know, beliefs on everyone, but I think it's good. And I always fall back to go with what works for you. And if that works for you, that's awesome. If Docker and Kubernetes is something you want to learn about, that's awesome. But if not, you know, there are other things out there. But yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks for your awesome vids and helps. Yeah, no problem, Creamy Ken. I feel awkward saying Creamy Ken, but it kind of rolls off the tongue, which is kind of weird too. But thank you. I appreciate the comment, appreciate the sub, and thanks for the feedback. Home Lab, I keep wanting to say Home Lab Brew, which sounds awesome. Home Lab anew, Home Lab new, and then I want to say Home Lab anew. But anyways, it's Home Lab new. An awesome name, by the way, on Twitch. So that's good to hear. The debate for me lies in the no doubt more complete hardware support, which a Linux-based hypervisor like Proxmox will have, versus the slight extra performance of something like ESXi. I think you've made up my mind going with Proxmox. Well, you know, there are a lot of great hypervisors out there. Like I ran Hyper-V for Microsoft for a really long time. Like, you know, so no problems there. You know, I ran ESXi for a long time. I've gone back and forth, Proxmox, ESXi. But for me, it just boiled down to two things. One was you can't assign more cores than 8 to a virtual machine, which I have more cores now that I bought my server. And then their requirement for specialized hardware for your storage. And that's where I was like, I want to do ZFS. I don't want to rely on having this, you know, hardware RAID card. And that's where I was kind of like, hey, Proxmox sounds awesome. Let's give it a go. And then I've been going ever since. But yeah, so hopefully it helps. If not, you know, yeah, ESXi is a good choice too. I don't want to, it's not that I don't want to, I just don't, yeah, the license for me to pay for stuff at home is just, it's cost prohibitive. I'll put it that way. Hey, that guy Butterfly, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it so much. Thank you, thank you. Let me grab a drink real quick. Gorfy, everything on the weapons, including internal components, if I remember correctly, and if you drop in a night without NVGs or a thermal scope type piece of equipment, you're just walking around in the dark and you can't see. You only make it that mistake once. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome that they put that much thought into the game, you know, and there's yeah, and then they put that, you know, those types of choices to the player, which I think is awesome. Having the player, you know, it's not just a feature in the game, it's making the player have those choices. One, they have the option to make the choice, and then two, they have the option to ignore the choice. So that's awesome that they thought about it that far. Sweet. Yeah, I should totally play it. But then I feel like it'd be like WoW like 10 years ago where I was just like, that's all I wanted to do. But yeah, maybe, I don't know, is there a quick mode in Tarkov where I can hop in, hop out 20, 30 minutes? Which seems to never happen when I play games. But yeah, I should totally check it out. HomeLab New, oh yeah, did you get a chance to see what happened to Cloudflare yesterday? Actually, I did. I experienced it quite a bit. Give the outage postmortem a read if you're interested in DevOps and WAN networking. Yeah, I'm totally interested. So this isn't the first time that Cloudflare's had something like this happen. I think there was one as simple as like a regex command once in their firewall that basically took down the half of the internet or most of the internet. And yesterday's outage, I didn't read the postmortem yet, but I experienced it myself. All of my services were telling me they were offline. So I run public services, and they kept warning me I have it set up 60 seconds because I'm like, every 60 seconds, ping my services and let me know. And it kept going off and kept going off. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, they're up. And so I'm checking my app that I wrote, and I'm looking through the app. I'm like, app's working. I'm like, oh, let me try a different network. And then I went out to Dig, and I could resolve all of my names. And I'm like, okay, weird. Must be the service I use that checks DNS. Well, as it turns out, it was DNS itself. So yeah, it's super interesting. I'm definitely going to read the postmortem. But it had little to no effect on me other than annoying the crap out of me because I kept getting alerts from the service that I use that tells me whether or not something's up. Because I can't check internally. Like all my services run here, so I got to use a third-party service to check my services. Kind of confusing, but yeah, totally. Yeah, it's makes you wonder. You know, it's like the internet's down because of DNS, and DNS is super important. Don't get me wrong, but I keep thinking like, how else can we do this? And I'm sure there are a lot more people smarter than me figuring this out or thinking that same thing. But yeah, it's DNS is basically the crux of our whole entire name system and how we resolve IP. So if that's down, we're in big trouble. And there are a couple linchpins like that, where, you know, if you pull them, things are just totally gonna break. But DNS is definitely one. But yeah, interesting. I definitely need to read it. They're pretty good in their postmortems. I remember, I think it was like a year and a half ago when they had the problem with someone updated a firewall rule and had like a 2-character typo in their regex, and they were basically DOSing themselves. That they wrote a full write-up, and it it totally supported my comment that I usually make about regex. It's like, how's it go? It's something like if you have a problem with regex and you solved it with if you have a problem and you solved it with regex, now you have 2 problems. That's kind of not always true, but for me, a lot of the time it is, because it's magic to me. I get the gist of it, but yeah, totally. But anyways, I'm rambling. Looks like there was a fall in there real quick. Archimedes A3000, hey, thanks for the follow, appreciate it. Thank you, thanks for stopping in, thanks for following. Let's go back. Whoa, I'm way back here. That guy Butterfly, am I? Oh man, what is going on now? You see my events still go away? Oh yeah. Something is, this is funny. There are either a ton of follows right now, or like something is going on with Twitch. All of the services you saw just disappear. But I'll try to get caught up on these comments. Jeez, there's no way that, look what's going on right now. Is this real life? Looks like Twitch is having a problem with their services too. Either Twitch or Stream Elements, because it just looked like, I don't know, 50 people followed me all at once, which I doubt is true. Oh, totally. Oh, probably bots. Or wait, am I? No, those are all follows. All right, and I have 2 chats going on. I'll get caught up to that, because I think that's a problem with either Stream Elements or Twitch, which is probably Stream Elements, but who knows? Don't mean to throw them under the bus. Who knows who it is? Oh, where were we? Did you get a chance to see? Oh, the Cloudflare, yes, I saw it. Creamy Ken, haha, that's an anagram for my real name. Semi-anonymous, I suppose. Yeah, just like mine, right? Techno Tim. Yeah, totally. Nice alert. I'm wearing Luigi socks right now. That guy Butterfly, that's awesome. Thank you for the follow. I don't know if I saw that, but thank you. Appreciate it. That's awesome. Luigi is awesome. I love the game. I always like Luigi too. Sometimes I would put it on 2 players and die as Mario on the original, just so I could play as Luigi, because it wasn't Mario. So yeah, totally appreciate it. We are currently implementing Cloudflare. Should I shoot that to my boss? Yeah. I mean, it could be anyone you use for DNS, right? If it's not Cloudflare, it's someone else, I don't know. Cloudflare's been pretty awesome for me. I use it personally. I wrote my own dynamic DNS and works okay until, Cloudflare doesn't work anymore. Home Avenue, okay, so Cloudflare is solid, but anyone, they make mistakes. Personally, I wouldn't hesitate to use them. They're definitely a good steward, and they know what they're doing. They were back up within 30 minutes. Yeah, I totally agree. You summarize my thoughts exactly. Archimedes A3000, I already said that. Gorfy, yeah, for a personal, I probably wouldn't care, but if we are down from a business point of view, losing sales, it just makes sure to redirect around the important part. Yeah, that's tough. I mean, you could use 2 DNS providers, but yeah, it's I think it can happen anywhere. Humans, are the weakest link, and I'm willing to bet that this was a human error without even looking or knowing, what the problem was. Totally, it had to have been. But who knows? Weird. Well, oh yeah, holy moly, yeah. Someone just bought a ton of people subs. Oh, that guy Butterfly. I think it's the follow notification, and it's funny because if you look, so it triggered on Grumpy Apples 2, Dorothy Glad. I don't know if these are real people or not, because every now and then, Twitch has a problem with tons of bots going out and getting created and following tons of people. With numbers at the end, kind of tells me that they're probably bot accounts. So what happened there was a bunch of people triggered a follow. My bot went out, so I wrote the bot that's running in here, went out and said, thank you for all that. And then if you see my bot went offline, so there was probably a problem, and then it came back online. So every time you see bot version, yada, 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 that means my bot actually came online. So something happened to where it totally kicked my bot offline. And you can see, like, now you're seeing my event stream back in. So something happened then with Stream Elements too. So it wasn't just me, but yeah, totally crazy. Well, we get to see Mario some more, and these are probably bot accounts, but that's all right. So yeah, all the ones that end in numbers, it kind of makes me wonder. I guarantee if we go here right now, like this person is not a real person. I bet it's an account that was created however long ago, and that account probably had 0 followers. Just saying that. And if not, Mild Stork 6, I apologize, but I'm betting someone's up to something. Not me. Definitely not me. I one, wouldn't do it, and 2, I just totally I totally wouldn't do it, and it just seems like a whole lot of work for nothing. These are probably accounts that some bot account or bot service is going to sell to people who are suckers for it and pay for follows or something like that, which is sad. Hopefully no one falls for that, because that stuff is not good. Takano, heyo, finally got the Switch. Nice. Every time you say Switch, I think Nintendo Switch, because my brain's just like wired that way. But yeah, that's awesome. So now you have 10 gigabit, right? So now you have your 2 ports of 10 gigabit, and the rest are gigabit. That's awesome. That's totally awesome. So did you decide which devices you're going to hook up to your 2 ports for 10 gigabit? Boy, I ain't got no followers. Big sad. Yeah, big sad. I know, it is big sad. It's big sad when that happens. I totally agree. You have some followers. You have me, right? Yeah, so boy, have you been just playing and streaming Tarkov? You're right, all I need. That's right. Archimedes A3000, I am no bot. I am an ARM computer. Yeah. Oh man. I know that, so if Archimedes, I can kind of tell you're human, at least according to your comments, but who knows, jury's still out. Yeah, that's crazy. My alerts are still going off, and you can see that it's just flooded in Stream Elements. So to me, this says someone created bot accounts, and so what happened is they probably did this across all of Twitch. Because if you see Stream Elements, who does my alerts, went offline too. They just totally disappeared. So to me, that kind of looked like, a ton of bot accounts went out and followed a ton of people, which generate tons of messages or notifications, which then Stream Elements consumed, and something went wrong while consuming those, and they went offline or through errors. And probably the same thing to Stream Elements or Streamlabs also, because I use Streamlabs to consume those events from my bot. So you saw my bot restarted twice. And so, yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy. We can maybe we'll blame DNS. I don't think so, though. I don't think so. Takano, yeah, now just going to save up from the DAC cables and NICs, but it's going to be connected to the main server and my PC. Nice. So now you have 10 gig in between the two. Yeah, that's awesome. So are they close together? Are they far apart? Like, do you have to stretch the DAC cables super duper far? Or are they like relatively close? Which might be loud, who knows? But who knows where people put their server racks? Mine's fortunately in the basement. And when we bought this house, fortunately, I kind of went crazy and ran a whole bunch of Cat5e, which to today's standards, I mean, this was only like 5-6 years ago, but it's good enough for gigabit. And I hear that you could still do 10 gig on a short run on Cat5e. So if I ever get a Switch, I'm totally gonna try it. Totally gonna try. I mean, what's the hurt? It's just gonna fall back to gigabit what I'm at now. But boy, yeah, I've been just kind of just playing with one of my buddies, and I think it may get down to some Dead Cells in a little bit. Nice, dude. That's one of my top 5, top 10 for sure, but top 5 games. Like I love Dead Cells so much. I haven't played in so long, and I keep seeing the notifications from Steam from all the game updates they're doing, and I'm like, oh man, I'm either going to be really bad or this is going to be awesome. So that was on my short list of stuff to play today if we run out of things to talk about. Hopefully we don't run out of things to talk about, but that's on my short list is Dead Cells, because I love that game. The music is so fantastic on that game too. Let's see here. I blame the CIA. Yeah, totally. They're totally tapping into Twitch streams and making a whole bunch of fake accounts and following a whole bunch of people. It's nonstop. Maybe it'll settle down. So every time you see that was an event that fired, which means that there were a ton of bots that followed. Like even that one, ABJT Mackerel. Most of them are like fish and bird names. Truthful, Mandrill. These sound like Ubuntu releases, don't they? Like this is like choose your adjective and then choose your animal. Unhappy rats. These are totally Ubuntu releases. Grudging snail. Oh yeah, totally. It's like, hey guys, did you get the latest Grudging Snail release yet? It's like they went through a dictionary and chose an adjective and chose an animal, which I think is a fantastic way to name your product. I mean, look at Firefox, same idea. Like I've always been a fan of like when naming products, digital products, or any product, I think a couple things are good. One is to do alliteration, so you have two words that start with the same letter phonetically. And then to choose an adjective and or descriptor and then a noun, preferably an animal. And they're awesome. I mean, look at Firefox, perfect example. Alliteration, and then an adjective and an animal, and it's fantastic. Anyways, I digress. I'm talking about naming products like I'm in marketing or something. Let's get back here. So I blame the CIA. Yep, we saw that. DAC has come down so much in price. Well, for 10G at least. That's good news. That's good news because a lot of this stuff is super expensive and it's cost prohibitive for me. And I'm also like, I don't want to crawl around in my attic anymore. That door back there is how I get to the attic, and I'm just like, oh, I can't. I already did that once for all my network cables. But I suppose I could drop a DAC down there, maybe pretty easily. But it's kind of scary. But I need a better backbone because if my network backbone is still gig, like it's kind of, for me, I don't get a ton of use out of it. But if I did something like that, like you got this new switch, I could do point to point. I think do a ad hoc network, just statically assign some IPs. Would that work? Yeah, well, that switch still has access to my DHCP, so never mind. I don't even think I'd have to do that. Wait, no. Yeah, I'm like second guessing myself. I guess I don't know exactly how it would work. I think I would have to do a point to point. So I'd have to have two network cables then, I think, where my one 10 gig port could only access the 10 gig port on my server. And then the 1 gig would be for everything else, I think. I'm just figuring this out in my head as I go. Are you still using Proxmox? Archimedes A3000? Absolutely am. Totally am. Oh, and I missed a couple. Deck has come down. Oh, that was Scafa. How are you? That's awesome. Your name was matching Takano, so I just assumed it was one from him. Pretty close to the rack right next to my PC desk. Awesome. So it's like right here, which is sweet. Which is sweet. Yeah. That's awesome. So that's an easy cable run for you. Gorfy, we need to stop talking about 10 gigabit before I end up buying it when I have no use for it at all. I hear you. Like I keep saying in my head, I will not do 10 gigabit. I will not do 10 gigabit. And then at the same time, I'm just like, I want 10 gigabit. And I have one very specific use case for it. And it's, I guess two. One for backups if I ever need to transfer between servers. But now it's a diff and it's compressed, so it's not that bad. And then two was just so I can edit my videos directly on the server. Because every time I shoot a video, I have to convert like 60 gigs of video data to proxies. I think that's what they're called. to where they're smaller, compressed, less, I guess, lower fidelity videos, so that I can work them on my desktop. But if I had 10 gig and I could pull that much bandwidth over the network, that would be awesome. Because then I wouldn't have to create proxies and spend 30 minutes just importing and converting. But yeah, one day. Let's go back here. Stop talking about, oh yeah, totally, yep. Awesome, in-wall structured cable. I am in the process of wiring up this house. Home lab new, awesome. In-wall structured cable. I'm in the process of wiring up this house. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, next house, if there is a next house, totally, I'm gonna run, you know, whatever, Cat 6, whatever can do 10 gig network over a great distance. And I'm holding out for copper. I don't know if that will ever come down, but I feel like it needs to eventually. Just because like, there's no way like everyone's gonna start retrofitting their house with, you know, a DAC cable. I don't know, maybe. But I think, yeah, I think one of the specs of Cat 6 can, and I'm holding out, because then it's just like swapping stuff. But anyways, next house, I'll put in Cat 6 either way, even if I don't plan on doing 10 gig over the network, just because I only did Cat 5e because it was a cheap way to get gigabit when I moved in here, and I can do power over Ethernet too. I think that's the E part of Cat 5e, but I'm not a networking guru. This is just like me figuring it out. Just decided to officially buy it. Oh, Voy, I think you're talking about Dead Cells. Yeah, it's awesome, man. I beat the game on no cells, and then I think I've beaten the game on 1 cell mode, and after that it's just it's so hard. Like, you have to be so good on your game to be able to beat it. It's tough. Yeah, totally tough. Mango Rule, hey, thanks for the follow, appreciate it. Super behind on follows, and hopefully you are a real person, because I think like the notifications you keep seeing right now are, I think, bots that just totally spammed a lot of Twitch. So I appreciate it. Maybe not. But yeah, so Voy played a bit to try it out. Good old Pirate Bay edition. Oh, that's not good, man. That's not good. Twinmotion, they totally deserve that money, because that game is so good. Like, everything about that game, the art style, the music, the gameplay, like, it's so fun. Like, and once you get semi-decent at it, you just kind of get in this zone where you're planning out like your next 3 attacks, you know, a half a second before you do it, because it's such a fast game. But you're like, okay, I'm gonna hit this guy, I'm gonna roll here, I'm gonna hit him, you know, and it just gets so fun. They are not Zulu enough. Not sure I follow that one, Archimedes. Scoffhall, you only want to run DAC for short runs. Anything longer than around 7 meters, so about 21 feet, might as well just run MM or SM fiber with optics. Okay, gotcha. All good here. Glad to see your channel growing. Oh, hey, thanks so much. Yeah, I'm yeah, it's kind of it's fun. Like, I'm always so nervous about, you know, releasing stuff, and it's so much work. Like, you know, on Wednesday night, I'm like, am I going to get this out before Saturday? I have no idea. And as I'm editing, I'm just like, what did I do? And then somehow in the end, it kind of comes together. It's mostly editing, because I'm not the greatest at just shooting and speaking in general. So a lot of it is editing. So I've learned a ton on how to edit stuff, especially if you see my earlier stuff. But it's funny, because my earlier stuff is like 6 months ago, because that's all I've been doing. That's the only time I put into making videos and editing them. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for noticing. Archimedes A3000, do you recommend any good books to read on Proxmox? No, that's a good question. No, I learned Proxmox through videos. So, you know, I mean, I learned through YouTube. I still do to this day. I'm more visual, and having audio backing while someone's showing something. That's how I learn. I'm like a sponge. I'll pause and rewind and zoom in on things. But I don't know. I mean, they definitely have a wiki, but most of that is, you know, how to implement it or solve a problem that you have. But I think they may or may not have some white papers if that's something you want to read on maybe case studies. But no, for me, it's just trying. It's just getting a machine, a separate machine that you can totally spin it up, break it, destroy it, fix it, build it up again, and do that over and over and over. And yeah, so the second way I learned is through repetition all my life. So most of the things I do, before I even do it for real, I've already tried it, 5 times. And so for me, it's that. It's watching, absorbing, and then doing repetition. And then my last step is showing someone else. Because when I try to show someone else, that kind of tests me to see if I absorbed or learned what I was just talking about. Sometimes I don't. And I love it when people, call me out on that. And they're like, what? Or what's this step right here? And I'm like, oh, either I didn't explain it deep enough, or I was too high of a level, or I guess it was the same thing, or I just totally skipped over it because I wasn't really sure. But yeah, so I can't recommend any now. That's a good question for Discord, but let me see. I'm scribbling down on this piece of mail that I've had here for 2 months now that I keep reusing. But I wrote it down. I'll look up something, and if you're in Discord, I'll totally post something if I find something. Sorry, Home Lab new. Cat 6a can do 10 gig up to 100 meters, I think. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I need. That stuff's got to be thick too. The copper and the shielding on that has got to be thick, totally. Because, yeah, it just seems like with Cat 6 that it requires a lot more power and just a lot more copper and density in that copper. I'm only guessing, but Cat 5e, even Cat 5, it's just like the copper in there is just like a little twig. But I think it's got to have good shielding or something. Probably thicker copper and then good shielding. I don't know if these are real follows or not, so not sure to call them out. But anyways, I will. Woody style, Uchiha. Uchiwa. Oh, Uchiwa. Okay, so that sounds, Uchiwa sounds Japanese, is that a, I don't remember if that's, I don't know. I'm going down a rabbit hole of Japanese. Anyways, I don't know if that's a real person, but if you are, thanks so much for following. Where do you troubleshoot that subbot from last week? Yeah, were you able to? Bad news, I was not able to. I logged out the wrong event, which sucks. So when I put a ton of logging in, I put a log in the wrong event. I put it in just the generic sub event and not the gifted one. So nope, but yeah. So I wasn't able to, but it's there now, and it will totally log out to Discord, the best logging server ever, which I use. I turned Discord into one of my logging and notification servers. But soon, yeah, hopefully. I try a lot of games on Pirate Bay Edition. What? And I get a feel when I'm not sure. I don't want to dollars into it, boy. Yeah, I totally understand. But at the same time, Steam has a really good return policy. So does Humble. All right, I'm gonna head out and Dead Cells lurk it up. Thanks, boy. But for the people who change their mind about games, Steam has an awesome return policy. It's something like 2 weeks or 2 hours, whatever comes first. Kind of sounds like a car warranty. But almost every game you can buy on Steam, they have a pretty solid return policy that if you don't like it for any reason, you just ask for a refund and they'll give it. So I recommend doing that over downloading games and then deciding, because for the most part, a couple of hours is enough to know if you're going to continue to play it. I'd say for me, it's going to be 20 minutes. In the first 20 minutes of any game, I'm going to know, is this worth my time? But yeah, anyways, thanks, Voy. Appreciate it. Appreciate you stopping in. Thanks for the alert, too. Archimedes A3000. Oh, thank you. Yeah, no problem. I hope that's helpful. I didn't really recommend a book, but I will definitely try to find one. And if I do, I'll post it in Discord. And if you're in there, you'll see it. If not, I'll maybe next stream, I'll post it there, too. But it's hard for me to recommend one if I haven't read it. I'll just try to search for what's popular. HomeLab new. I don't even think it has to be shielded. That's interesting. That's probably talking about Cat 6a. Yeah, that's interesting. I thought like on, you know, with Cat 6a, it like would introduce a ton of noise, so it needs to be shielded, but maybe not. Scoffall, Cat 6a is tough. Is a pain to terminate. Oh, that's interesting. Why? Like, is it, I don't know anything about Cat 6a. Is it just like a Cat 5 cable? Are there more twisted pairs? I know, oh, don't they have the shielding? That's what I was talking about. Don't they have that shield built in the middle? It's like a cross. Because, you know, Cat 5e doesn't. It's just like 4 twisted pairs going up with some weird cotton in there or something. Who knows what that stuff is? And I've terminated a ton of that, and that's painful for me. I thought Cat 6 had that little separator. I've heard a lot of people say, but never understood what they mean. How is it fundamentally different from something like Cat 6 or Cat 5e in terms of terminating? Yeah, good. Hey, Gorfy. Hey, thank you so much. Gifted. Oh man, gifted sub. Thank you so much, Gorfy. My alerts are so far behind. Who knows when it'll get there? I should totally reset my alert right there. And I think I can in just like one click. And you know what? I'm going to do that. Give me 1 second. Twitch events. All right, let's kill that. That wasn't it. And then my alerts. All right, killed that. Now we're back. And then let me open up Stream Elements just to see that alert and just to make sure they still work and to play your event on stream again. Yeah. Dude, thanks so much, Gorfy. I appreciate it. Thanks for the gifted sub. I appreciate it. HomeLab anew. Hey, Gorfy gifted you a sub. So I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm scared to look. I'm scared to look now to see if I have the logs. Like the pressure is really on now. Oh yeah, I got it. I totally got it. Sub-gifted handler, channel. Yeah, Gorfy, user state. Yeah, so thank you. So there's this ongoing bug that I have with my own bot, and you can see it there. You can see the bug, it's right there, where it says, thank you, Gorfy, for gifting a sub to HomeLab New. That's working. Besides my curly bracket, I gotta fix that. There's another bug, but that doesn't prevent anything from happening. The bug is in the next line where it says, Gorfy has gifted 0 subs. And this has been super hard to track down because I have absolutely no way to look at like what that response looks like unless it really happens. And so the last time we attempted it, well, I didn't attempt it. The last time I thought I put logging in place, someone gifted a sub and then it totally, I logged out the wrong thing. So like right after that stream, I added logging and so now I have logs. So Gorfy, thank you. And my GitHub repo of this open source bot I wrote, thanks you too. And hopefully all the people who use that bot will pull in this update and get this update because of you. So thank you, I appreciate it. Oh man, thank you so much. Super cool. No one has ever gifted a sub. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I'm totally humbled by the people that even just hang out my channel. I'm like every day I'm like, oh my gosh, like people liked this video or shared it or come to my stream every day. I'm just like, yeah, totally humbled. Hey, that looks like a real one, maybe. Thank you so much. What's that? Gam? Come on. Chat pause due to scroll? No. Gabe, sorry. Gabe MCG, thanks so much for the follow. Appreciate it. I totally need to turn up the zoom on my my chat, but thank you. I appreciate it. Just that's a little too chill for right now. Let's see here. We're going back here. I'm gonna give me 1 second. I'm gonna totally switch up the music a little bit. Yeah, this one's good. Anyways, thank you so much, sub. You're right. You're right. Maybe I'll think about that in the future. Yeah, totally, man. Totally. I don't know. I know it's easy to get free software, but at the same time, like, yeah, people paid money. And so, yeah, so like I said, Steam and Humble has a great return policy. So I would do that. Just use that. Like everything gives you a free trial because their return policy is fantastic. Okay, so Gorfy, the on-screen feed seemed to update for me pretty quickly. I could be mistaken though. at least the black box. Oh, so for me this was black here for a while, but I think I'm a little bit behind the comments. HomeLab New Cat 6A has the same number of twisted pairs, yep, but they are typically better insulated, okay, each strand, and they are twisted much more tightly. In addition, there's a plastic cross in the center of the cable which further separates each twisted pair to further reduce EMI. Then some of those are additionally shielded, both at the sheathing and at the individual twisted pair level. Hey, that's awesome. So it kind of, I mean, that was a much better description than I definitely gave. But I remembered they have the little crosshair in there, and then you have, you know, 2 twisted pairs in each like quadrant. That's about all I know about it. I assumed it was still 4, you know, 4 pair, 8 wire. Because otherwise, like your RJ45, like, you know, that cable that goes into your network interface has to have the same amount of at least silver or copper contacts, but maybe not. Yeah, it would have to, because otherwise they wouldn't line up. Unidentified user, yo, what's up? Hey, how's it going? How are you doing? Good to see you. Scoffall, the termination is a lot less forgiving when crimping or punching down if you don't have enough shielding. Okay. Wire map and cable patterns stay the same with Cat 5e and Cat. Okay, cool. So I mean, I've done some wiring before, and I know there's the A and the B standard, and the US typically uses the B standard, which twists a different pair. I think it's, I don't know, green and white. I don't know. I just, I always have to pull out, every time I crimp down or create a cable or punch it down on a block or terminate it to a wall, which is rare now, I always have to like Google like a wiring diagram. And it's like Google Images, it's like the second image with like a white background. It shows all the twisted pairs. And then it's like A standard, B standard, and then I Google that and I'm like, which standard do I use? And it's then it says something about like US typically use the B standard. So I'm like, okay, I think I'm covered there. But yeah, that's good to know. I think Cat 5e is hard, personally. Like getting all of, you know, after you untwist the pairs and then you spread them out, and like I always pinch it with my thumb and trying to get like that, you know, that network jack on there perfectly, so hard. And then crimping it before they squeeze out. I'm not a pro at that, but yeah, it's tough. I think it is. So if Cat 6A is even harder than that, oh man, I am not prepared. Not prepared to wire this. I gave MCG, you're real, yay. Yeah, that's my new real check. Sorry, we just had like, I think a lot of Twitch probably just had a huge like bot spam follow on a lot of people, is what it seemed like to me. Because like I said, Truthful Mandrill and imported Basmati for Basmati. I don't think those are real people, but who knows? I could be wrong. iForts, how's it going? Hello. A standard for the win. Yeah, I totally agree. The standard is A or B. What a great standard. Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. Okay, so Scaffa, orange, yep, orange, white, green, white. Wait, orange, white, green, white, blue, white, green, brown, white. This is like exactly what you just said right there is like what I say in my head. Like I'm totally having a flashback to me wiring up my garage and saying this out loud, like, okay, you know, orange, white, green, white, blue, you know, and just totally like looking at the diagram, looking at the wires, looking at the diagram, looking at the wires, and just like, okay, I hope it's right, because after I crimped this guy, like it totally wasted this, you know, this end if not. But yeah, when you crimp them, that's like, it's one use. And you gotta, like I said, push them in there just right and not too far. I've actually had to do one within the last year. I don't normally, but yeah, one got torn out of my garage, and so I had to redo a couple parts. Still have my crimper too. I have my crimper. That crimper I think I bought from Monoprice like 10 years ago, even when I lived in an apartment, I think. To make my own network cables, and that thing's gotten so much use. Love it. Scofflaw, B standard, best standard. All right, I like it. I like it. I can remember B standard, best standard. I like it. Oh, hey, iForce, can you please turn off that white layer moving up? It's really hard on the eyes. Yeah, I can. I think I can dynamically. Oh, this is gonna be a tough one. Might be this. If it doesn't happen anymore, I fixed it. If it does, I'll figure it out later. But yeah, sorry that's hard on the eyes. And it's funny, I've had that there for so long. Yeah, long story. Like this scene, for me, was only supposed to be a quick scene, but I realized like so many people have so many awesome things to say and talk about. Like I'd rather, I need to figure out something to do with this scene. Hopefully it doesn't happen anymore, and I apologize if that hurts on your eyes. Hopefully I got it on the first try too, but you see how that goes with me writing code and all my bug fixes. We'll hope this isn't another incident of that. I have a feeling I fixed it, otherwise it would have happened by now. But yeah, sorry about that. iForce, man, name's iForce and it's hard on the eyes. But yeah, should be good. A Hitman 1987, hi, hey, how's it going? A Hitman 1987, I was just on your Discord and I have a question. How can I create a share in Proxmox that I can then map a network drive to in Windows so I can share files and access them from Proxmox with the same volume I mapped? That's a good question. Personally, have I done it? I think I've done it. I'm sorry, I have to think of how I back up my files. And I don't. So personally, I haven't done it. I'm sure I can find a good guide. And I did see your question earlier. I was just getting set up for stream, and I can follow up with some documentation. Personally, I haven't done it. I mean, I know this doesn't apply to everyone, but I kind of try to keep my separation of concerns from each process or server or VM or container that I run. And so for me, like I don't share files on Proxmox and use it as a NAS. I use FreeNAS for that. I know that's not the best answer for everyone or the right answer at all, but that's why I haven't done it, because I haven't needed to share files directly from that. I will definitely follow up though in Discord, and we will figure this out together. Shares Proxmox. I definitely need a new piece of paper. I need to write on my piece of paper. I need a new piece of paper. So next time I look at it, I'll grab it. But yeah, I'm sure there's tons of ways. But I personally haven't done it yet. But a lot of people do set up Samba shares or SMB shares on Proxmox so that their other machines all over can get it. And it has ZFS like built in too. So a lot of people are just all about it. Personally, I haven't done it yet. iForce, I'm kind of jealous that Americans have that paper wall to just punch through, and cables. EU, you can't do anything without a huge power tool to destroy the cement. Hey, no, I have plaster walls. I'm there with you. This house was built in 1920. There's no drywall then. So iForce, I'm totally with you. You know, I go to create one little hole and I've destroyed the whole wall. Cracks, plaster, dust, everything. Like, yeah, so, and fortunately, we have these ceiling hooks that's trim all around here. And that's how I hang up all my photos now. That and like command hooks from 3M. But yeah, I kind of have a no hole in the wall policy because it turns into a 3-day event. It's like either the hole gets too big, you know, I have to use a drill, that wears out, then the hole's too big or not big enough. I got to plaster, you know, dust everywhere, 3 layers of plaster, then paint. So yeah, I'm there with you. A lot of people have drywall here, but houses that are built, you know, before drywall was a thing are in the same boat as me, which is a large population around here where I'm at, because a lot of these houses were built in, 19, I don't know, anywhere from 1800 to now. But in this area, this neighborhood I'm in, most of them are in the 20s. So I'm there with you. iForce, it's working now. The white layer is gone. Thanks. Yeah, no problem. I'm gonna turn it back on though when you go. Just saying. No, I'll totally keep it off. I totally agree. It's unnecessary. Gorfy, there are several ways to skin the cat a Hitman. A simple one might be Ubuntu container and Samba. There you go, perfect answer. Yep, Gorfy's got it. Yeah, LXC container, right, with Samba. That's awesome. Yeah, great idea. That's a great idea. And I think I've seen that mentioned when I don't know, just strolling around along on the internet. But that sounds fantastic, because then it's like an LXC container. You're not actually then modifying anything on the server. You're just spinning up an LXC container with Samba. That sounds awesome. Sounds interesting too. Like I want to try it. Gabe MCG, I was just watching one of your Homeland video services vid, +1 for a firewall virtualization journey deep dive. I've been running pfSense and Hyper-V VM with 1 gigabit WAN for a few years. Adding 10 gigabit LAN and switching to Unraid, bare metal, I think. VV virtualized, concerned about CPU resources to support those speeds. Okay, so let me break this down a couple of things. So you've been running pfSense and Hyper-V with VM, okay. You're adding a 10 gigabit LAN to Unraid, and your concern is CPU resources to support those speeds. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I'd have to do some myself. I do know that almost every network, so every virtual machine that I have is doing tons of network activity all the time. And I, personally, I don't notice the overhead. Even my network firewall is virtualized, and I have 300 gig internet here, but it's doing like deep packet inspection and everything on here. So it's, it keeps up totally fine. Like I can tap out my internet, and then my virtual machines. So my FreeNAS is virtualized. And then now that obviously some other servers are virtualized, and I can totally tap out, gigabit, getting, what is that, 800-ish, a close to 900 megabit per second when I do transfers from this physical machine to one of the virtual machines. So I don't think I would be too concerned. Just depends what else you have running on there. If you're totally running some other service that is pegging the CPU, it may or may not have an effect on your network. But I run tons of stuff, and I haven't seen anything like that to support whether or not that's be a problem. But who knows? I mean, maybe it is when you get to 10 gigabit speeds, because that's considerably more than what I'm doing now. But I would think that then it starts to get into hard drive. Can your hard drives write fast enough? For 10 gigabit. Gorfy, can you print me directions? Can you point? I said print. I was like, what? Can you point me to directions, video tutorial? How? Let me see if I can think of it. Awesome. Put it in the Discord. Thanks, Gorfy. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Alan Olson, thank you so much for the follow. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, Gorfy, thanks so much. I do appreciate it. And it was an awesome suggestion about using LXC and SMB to spin up a Samba share then on your Proxmox server. Apparently, I was lazy and didn't do a write-up. The hardest part, though, is getting the config the way you want it. I'll write myself a note to try to get something about it on Discord tonight, Hitman. Yeah, dude, thanks so much, Gorfy. Totally appreciate it. Eyes Force. I'm not a fan of ZFS. It's great, but it's not consumer friendly for people who just want to build and add like 8 drives and would like to do 1 or 2 drives in the future. Yep, I totally agree. Like that's a concern. And like, expanding your pool is not really possible unless you replace each drive and resilver each drive to a bigger drive. And you have to do that for every drive in your pool. Yeah, I totally agree. Like ZFS isn't consumer friendly. I agree 100%. Requires a lot of RAM. It's not as flexible as something like Unraid. But yeah, I don't know enough about Unraid. I know you can do just a bunch of disks and dynamically add, storage. Yeah, I totally agree. ZFS, like when I started doing, I was like, what is going on? What is going on? I want my RAID adapter back. Not like that was even user friendly anyways. But now I'm using it. It's totally fine. But yeah, I'll feel that pain when I, on my storage pool, when when I upgrade, those drives if I ever need to. It's gonna be painful. And so I've kicked that can way down the road by having a 24, 25, 26 terabyte volume. So I kicked that can way down the road. We'll see when I catch up to it, but I agree. But at the same time, awesome piece of technology, right? That gives you all kinds of features. Some people care about, some people don't. Some people, do and some don't. So yeah, totally agree. Ice Force, the only one non-friendly part is the mount you want to buy, but otherwise ZFS is pretty user-friendly, in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, if I have a system, I don't know. So I have a system that does ZFS for me. It's called, FreeNAS, and it's also called Proxmox. So, typically I don't have to think about the commands that go into, creating pools and stuff like that. So, but yeah, but for the most part, like, I haven't had to think about it. So I think that speaks a lot about the technology too. It's super reliable. It's giving you an array with fault tolerance, without the need for a physical RAID adapter, which is awesome. And I haven't had to think about any of that. So I think, I guess the consumer friendly part, I guess it just depends on, which consumer are you? Are you the one doing it as an admin, or are you the one just consuming, the data off the drives or setting it up initially? So yeah, but yeah, it's good points. Good points all around. Alan Molson, I just finished watching your Docker Kubernetes Rancher video on YouTube. Super concise and informative. Oh, thanks. That one was that was kind of scary for me to make for a lot of reasons. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I try to, try to make my videos from a point of view of someone who has kind of no idea what I'm talking about, which is most people in my life. Just generally, and unless they're in tech, but sometimes even in tech, they haven't, played around with some of this stuff. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Hopefully it helps. Hopefully it helps. iForce, ZFS is really expensive. That's my only reason for not using it. Unraid always just has 2 spare drives. No matter how much drives you add to it, it dynamically adjusts itself. Yeah, I mean, I heard a ton of great stuff about Unraid, like ton of great stuff. And yeah, I think ZFS can get expensive too. Like, when, I mean, you gotta, I don't know what the minimum amount of RAM is. I'm sure there's some logical or theoretical minimum, but then there's also the real minimum. And it's a ton of RAM to run ZFS. Yeah, I mean, 8 gigs, is that enough? I don't know. I have 32 gigs on mine, and they say I should have 1 gig per terabyte, but I think that's the calculation. But at the same time, a lot of it's for caching. I don't really need caching all that much. There's, just a few people accessing these files. Most of the time it's just me. So I'm not getting any of those benefits. But yeah, it's, you kind of pass, I mean, at least from a traditional RAID perspective, you pass, the cost of a RAID adapter to probably RAM. But on Unraid, you don't need to worry about that at all, because it's, it's just more, it's a JBOD, that you can dynamically expand. So yeah, I should know more about Unraid. I don't know, I've just run Proxmox. I've tweaked it to the way I use it. Let's see, dive into it. Let's see, it amounts to, you have to take the time to dig into it. That's really what it amounts to. I totally agree, Gorfy. Yeah, you just need time. FreeNAS is changing to TrueNAS. That's very true, and that's coming soon. I think they have a beta out now. Yeah, TrueNAS Core and TrueNAS, there's another one, starts with an S, and it's an acronym for something else. But yeah, excited to see what that means for me. I know that I can play around with it now. Not ready to. I think I want to do my upgrade live and document it. So we'll see, or migration, or whatever that looks like. What does it look like to go, from FreeNAS to TrueNAS? I'm super interested. Hopefully it's just marketing and rebranding bump, but we'll see. I'm totally going to do it live. I mean, not live on stream. I mean, I guess I could, but that's even scarier. I just mean, I'm not gonna not gonna test too much. I'll make sure my data's there and I'll just go for it. Scorphy, really whatever you're comfortable with. Using really is 90% of the battle. I like to tweak more than people do, so I should be biased. Yeah, I tweak too, and I break things a lot. But once I tweak and not break it at least 2-3 times, then I stick with it. iForce I'm using unrated at the moment, but I don't really like that. Might switch to Xpenology soon. It has SHR2, basically the same as Unraid. Oh, interesting. Xpenology. Sounds interesting. Is it open source? Is it open source or is it a paid product? What do you guys think of BTRFS? BTRFS, man, I don't know. I'm assuming it's a file system. I haven't looked enough into BTRFS. Yeah, I'd like to know more, Home Avenue. Yeah, explain. I'm assuming a file system. Whenever I see FS at the end, it's usually a file system. Gorfy, I'm interested in seeing what FreeNAS, TrueNAS turns into. Yeah, me too. Yeah, totally. Sounds awesome. It's a great product so far. I know it gets a new logo. No more shark, but it's the fin. I see the fin, so it looks like the Wireshark fin, which I think is awesome. I've seen a guy mapping network drives so that he can share files directly from Windows to Proxmox, e.g. templates made by others, or any file for that matter. That's one of the reasons I need this done as a modified template, Xpenology, that I need to set up for copying and pasting. Oh, a Hitman 1987. Okay, so that's your use case then for the file share. Templates made by others or any file for that matter. Yep, totally understand your use case for it. You just want to be able to transfer those files or load those templates on your Proxmox server, but you're having a hard time getting those templates there. I think you can use the UI to do it, but Gorfy's got a way to do it with LXC containers, which I think is fantastic use for it. I'm sure the preferred way on Proxmox. HomeLab new BTRFS rate isn't great, but their file system is nice. Current TrueNAS has HA function. High availability, I'm assuming. SnapRaid. Synology runs on BTRFS, for what it's worth. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, never got into Synology. Been building my own NAS forever. It's a file system, but that's where my knowledge ends. Yeah, that's where my knowledge ends too, and I only guessed file system because I saw FS at the end. Xpenology equals Synology. Okay, so Synology is open source, and Xpenology is a project that makes it work on custom pieces. Okay, that sounds awesome. So then maybe I can dabble in Synology someday. And I think that's awesome. And so, making products in general more accessible to more people is always good. So I think that's awesome. Yeah, might check it out someday. You ever used or heard about SnapRaid? I have heard of SnapRaid, but I haven't used it. Isn't that the paid for RAID? Isn't it like the RAID? I think you pay a small fee for it, and it's supposed to be super awesome and performant, and it's all software based. I could be wrong. Piqued my interest. Okay, Gorfy. Synology uses I get my acronyms wrong. BTRFS, but just the file system, but they use their own RAID method since buffs BTRFS RAID is bad. Okay, interesting. Looked at it from the FS side, didn't look at it at the past, pretty ignorant any further. BTRFS stuck out because how it does parity, and you upgrade drives, upgrade drives is the only reason I realized it. Okay, yeah, I don't know enough about it. Should know more, but Skal. Is this the Skal Fa, or is this a new Skal? Did you change your name? Yeah, we need to play with the Xpenology stuff. Been debating doing their dual site backups with my brother-in-law. Awesome. Yeah, I was talking about this last stream about, I end up talking about this probably once a week on how awesome CrashPlan's like friend backup thing was. And someone mentioned you can do that with Synology. Basically trade space, back up to each other securely over the internet. And then I assume or hope that you own the encryption key so that your friend who owns that machine can't look at your data. I hope and assume that's the only way that I could see this working, is that the your data is encrypted on their machine, but you own the encryption key. I hope that's how it works. And if so, that's awesome. That is so awesome. Because that would be sweet. Because I would totally trade some data or storage space with someone else. And just basically the way it worked on CrashPlan was, hey, you give me 100 gigs, I'll give you 100 gigs. Cool. All right. Well, here you go. Done. Yeah, it's awesome. Techno Tim, it's commonly referred to as, ButterFS. I have heard of Butter. Now that you say it. I think Wendell or someone. No, if Wendell uses it, I'm sure it's acceptable. Yeah, I have heard pronounced as Butter. ButterFS, that is. Yeah, if Wendell uses it, totally. Yeah, it's got to be good. You know it's good if he does, for sure. You should really check out Exponology. All the function it has is just pure awesome, and you will see how much FreeNAS and Unraid lack in functions, which they account for with user-made apps, but then you have to trust the community to keep everything updated. Yeah, totally. That's one of the things that I hear about all the time is how awesome, well, at least Unraid gets a lot of praise for the amount of plugins that they have and the community plugins that people make, and how accessible they are, how easy it is to get them on Unraid. And that's some of the criticism I've seen from FreeNAS is that, you don't get a lot of community plugins. Yeah, that sounds awesome. It sounds great. So Exponology, I'll have to check it out. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's just a weird mishmash of letters. Exponology. But yeah, I'll definitely check it out. See what it's all about. Sounds interesting. And if they had the whole, I'm going to call it friend backup, that I'm sure they have a proper product name for it. But if it has friend backup, if it has a community of plugins you can, install very easily. It can be installed on commodity hardware, like whatever I have in the basement, or a virtual machine if I want. And it does all that stable and securely. Yeah, it sounds awesome to me. Yeah. Skull, the same, just remove the FA to better align with other accounts. Skull wasn't available on Twitch, just remember to do it. All right, because I was like, wait a second, there are two people with Skull? But cool, thanks for the clarification. HomeLab New, what does everyone here use for offsite backups? Personally, I use CrashPlan. So, no, not CrashPlan, Backblaze. I use CrashPlan for like 5 years. So I'm on Backblaze now. That's what I personally use. It's fantastic. It's cheap. If you pay for a year, it's $60 a year, unlimited data whatsoever. So yeah, and it's easy to find. That's what I use. Never had a problem. It runs great. I used to run CrashPlan even before that, which was fantastic too. The only thing with Backblaze is it will only back up one PC, and they don't have a client that runs on Linux. And what else? There are a couple of caveats that you need to understand before you do it. But other than that, if you have a machine that you can, a Windows machine that you can connect to or store all your data there, it runs great. Other than that, you got to find either use one of their other products or find a way around it. Yeah. I'm a little bit behind. Okay, real noob here. Question: how to disable the error when trying to log into Nextcloud after creating a container for the template in Proxmox? The error just started accessing Nextcloud trusted domain, SSHing into it. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Here we go. Yeah, iForce. Yeah, I haven't run in the air. I run it on a Docker container, and yeah, haven't run into that personally. Where was I? Okay. For anyone that doesn't have a friend to back up to, I can highly recommend Restic, which is a little S3 compatible backup utility, which can back up a ton of different backends, including physical storage mediums, S3, GCP, buckets, FTP serve, and similar, all zero trust and encrypted with a symmetric key. I created an AWS Glacier Deep archive bucket, which I back up to. Storage is absurdly cheap. That sounds awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. So the Amazon Glacier Deep archive bucket, that's like a slow changing kind of slow changing storage, right? Just a big archive that's really slow that you can get really cheap. I can't modify the files. Okay, can't install it, that's it. I can't really help. I use Nextcloud on Docker. Yeah, same here. I'm like, when it comes to LXC containers, I have to Google everything because I've only spun them up like twice in my life because just everything I use at home and at work is all Docker and Kubernetes based. So, but be glad to help Google some stuff later with you in Discord. HomeLab new long-term storage that you'd expect to access very infrequently. Okay, totally, yeah. First thing I would do is this template is create a new user. Okay, you guys are talking about LXC troubleshooting. I think you need 12 hours from the time you request your data backup for them to actually pull it off, and God knows what sort of tape infrastructure. Yeah, that's kind of scary. Yeah, I like it on the cheap part, but not on the restore part. Because at least with Backblaze, I can restore a file right now, and it's, I gotta obviously wait probably 10, 20 seconds for them to retrieve it and zip it up and send it to me. Man, that's totally, that's tough. I mean, it'd be great for like a large backup, like I guess some of the stuff I do. If I had tiered, I guess, backups where I'm like, okay, this is super important stuff, but this is the stuff like, yeah, if I manage that all myself and I'm like, here are the things that haven't changed in whatever so long, or big files that I don't really care about that could take forever. I guess if I had my own better backup strategy on what gets backed up when and to where, yeah, I could totally see that working. You could always create a bucket that's more available, but it will cost a little bit more. Yeah, totally. Cold storage on magnetic tape has become very popular in the enterprise space, especially for things like compliance records. Yeah, I totally agree too. I'm paying about $2 per terabyte right now on a semi-available backup or bucket. That's super cheap. That is way cheap. $2 per terabyte? Yeah, that sounds real cheap. Yeah, yeah, it sounds awesome. Like, how many terabytes do you have, just out of curiosity? Are we talking like 10, 2, 4? Because yeah, I think I have 3 terabytes with Backblaze. And so I have 3 terabytes with Backblaze that's highly available. I mean, I guess I don't have true HA, but I can download it at any point in time. And then also they can send a hard drive to me if I pay a little bit more, or a set of hard drives. It's like 4 terabytes. Okay, so I'm under 4, and yeah, I pay, $5 a month if I pay for the year. That's awesome. iForce, I back up on hard drives. I have trust issues with clouds. Yeah, I know what you mean. I agree, but I think, with me owning the encryption key, unless someone gets the encryption key from me, like there's very little to no possibility that someone could, decrypt that data. Because, most storage or backup solutions don't have the key either. So they themselves don't, have the ability to decrypt your data. How is Backblaze in terms of security? Are they an end-to-end zero trust? You know what? I'd have to look into it again before I comment on it. I would imagine so. But yeah, I'd have to look again. Yeah, I just know it's been, I moved from CrashPlan to them, and it was super. It's been super solid. Every now and then, like, it gets confused on a drive letter, and I'm like, oh, that drive or that mount, either drive letter or mount, hasn't backed up in a while. It probably should have told me, oh, it's because it thinks it's somewhere else now, but there could be a configuration on my part. Have I ever thought about thin clients? Kinda. Kind of. How's that? The only thing where do I even start? So thin clients, love the idea. I have the infrastructure for it. And I could totally do it. And I do it for a couple of things. I run virtual machines. Sometimes I remote into them to do very specific things. And other times I need physical hardware. Like, as you can see, I mean, you can't see, but I have a lot of physical hardware attached to this machine right now to make all this work. So a thin client sitting right here for me would do nothing. But there are specialized things I need to do sometimes where I do RDP into those machines and do it. But for like my use case and my wife's use case, like it just wouldn't work. Like, she has hardware too. She's a designer. She needs like zero response, zero lag in between whatever she's doing in Photoshop, Illustrator, all that stuff. And I'm kind of the same way. Like, even if I didn't stream, like, I have to edit videos, and I don't know, whatever latency that a network would introduce would be kind of painful. But that's not to say they're not great uses. I mean, someone I think last week was talking about doing this for their kids, and how this would be a great model for the kids, is instead of buying super expensive laptops or PCs, building out, very good virtual machines that had video cards passed through to them that was on a shared, infrastructure that each of them could log into using a laptop. So think of that like your thin client or anything really, and then remoting into those machines there. And then that way the laptop becomes, a commodity or something you can just throw away. You wouldn't throw it away, but you know what I mean. And you're not spending a ton of money on expensive laptops. You can get some cheaper laptops and just always connect to your infrastructure here. Obviously, that's for gaming, that's highly specialized, but for anything else, I think gaming is like one of the most sensitive things to any kind of latency anywhere, whether that be from shared infrastructure, from shared hard drives or network. But if you could do it with gaming, you could almost do it with anything else. So that's an awesome question. And I think for kids it's fantastic. And I don't have kids, but I think that would be fantastic. If I did, be like, here's your laptop, here's how you RDP into my beast mode server, and here's how you access everything, and then so it's, you never get my laptop slow because it's running on like, my Dell R710 or one of my other things that I have running. And even like consuming YouTube that way and stuff too. I totally can watch YouTube HD content, even just over, slow and sluggish RDP. And there are better clients out there to do, remote access than RDP. RDP is pretty good for like business type stuff you do on Windows. But anyways, that's an awesome question, awesome to think about. And I would love to, I would love to move all of my stuff into a server, but like I said, 3 monitors, gaming, streaming, specialized hardware, all connected to this thing to where it's like, for me, it doesn't make sense, but totally would make sense. Almost give a laptop to my parents and just say like, remote into here through the through the internet, and that's probably faster than what you have at home anyway. So yeah, good question, iForce. Like, that's awesome to think about and go down and try to design something that would work for a lot of people. Or iSCSI drives instead of real drives under PC. So I do use iSCSI elsewhere. So I use iSCSI off FreeNAS, and that's what my big like Samba share runs off of. But it's not connected to this machine. They do, but there's a proxy through a Windows share, and I do that for some really strange reason. But I personally witnessed CrashPlan save every stressed lawyer's career. Backup your data guys don't delay. Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, CrashPlan isn't around anymore, but anything. So I need to, on my backups personally, this is gonna be like therapy. I need to do a little bit better backing up in general. Like, I back stuff up to the cloud, but I don't have, I have my data in two places because it exists here and on my server, but I still feel like I need something else. Like if I did have a Synology or something like that, or another FreeNAS server, then I can back up those pools locally so that if one server just totally tanked, I'd still have access to my data on the other thing. And not a huge deal, but you know, like your backups run nightly or whatever on file change, and sometimes, you know, restoring enough data to be operational again can be tough, especially at home. I mean, for me, it sucks. Like, if I was working on a video and it totally just crapped out, you know, it might take me a couple hours to get back up and working again. And meanwhile, I've just lost out on a couple of hours. Not to mention everything else getting up and running again would take, you know, spread out through a couple of days. But yeah, anyways. Yeah, my hope is that approach with Windows in general, if I can get a GPU pass-through part down, Linux full time, and only use Windows in a sandbox with GPU pass-through for gaming. Yeah, totally agree. I have no other need for Windows. I just run it so I can play a game every now and then. Yep, I totally agree. I mean, I have a use for Windows because of this setup I have going on here, and it could do it on a Mac. Linux, I don't think is a possibility for me at this point in time. I would love to try. But like, you know, some of my equipment that's plugged in, USB stuff, like my Stream Deck and Go XLR, I don't think they wrote drivers for Windows. I mean, for Linux. They barely support Mac. So who knows? But yeah, it would be interesting. Would be cool. And I think at that point, I'd basically build a dual PC rig, 2-in-1. I have no other need. Yep, totally agree. Truly a drain. Yep. What sort of GPU are you passing through? Home Lab New 3. Okay, so what type of GPU am I passing through? So I have this in a couple videos. It's even in my last one, or it's in my second to last one. But I have two video cards. One's a GTX 1050 and one's a GTX 1650. Both overclocked, and they're you know, what total budget cards. Only because I needed them for a very specific thing, and it's the NVENC coder from NVIDIA. And just so I can offload some of my video encoding to the GPU instead of doing H.264 on the CPU. Because if I do it on the CPU, two machines doing it at the same time, it'll peg the CPU, and then nothing else will even work nicely. But 2-2-1 rule, 3 copies of your data on at least 2 different mediums and 1 off-site. Yep, I think I'm on... I'm a 2-2-1 right now. I could use the 3-2-1. I could totally use the 3-2-1. One more copy here at home, because I have one here, one on the server, one in the cloud. Nothing new. I haven't set up yet. Haven't done it successfully with oh, you were asking Gorfy what GPU he has. 2070 primary might be easier because of newer hardware and or firmware. I thought about getting a newer, cheaper AMD chart. Yeah. I hear it is too. And I just don't, I mean, I don't know. I mean, AMD GPUs, I don't know. I haven't looked at them in a long time, and I haven't heard a ton of good stuff. Everyone's just saying, oh, the next version is going to be the NVIDIA killer, you know, and I've yet to see that. But yeah, I hear it's super easy to pass through. Most of the reason why it's hard to do in NVIDIA is because NVIDIA doesn't want you to. They want you to buy their, you know, their enterprise class GPU. Yeah, like, yeah. Quadros, like you mentioned. So it's, yeah. And then a lot of times they have a lot of proprietary software that, you know, they don't want to share with open source OSs, so it adds another layer of complexity. AMG is generally nice about passing through. NVIDIA designs their non-quadro firmware to attempt to detect. Yep, totally agree. HomeLab New went through that with Proxmox, and that's how that was one of my goals for Proxmox was, can I pass through a GPU? And that was going to make or break whether or not I went with Proxmox too. When I first started down this journey, I was like, if this doesn't work, Proxmox might not be an option because I need to do this. And hey, I got to take a break for 60 seconds, literally 60 seconds. I will be right back. Should probably mute my microphone too when I leave, huh? Not that I was really gonna say anything. Okay, sorry about that. Had to do a quick break, but back. Okay. Yeah, so the whole AMD thing, I totally agree. Like AMD is so friendly with GPU pass-throughs. Like they don't even do that check to see if they're being virtualized. And so that's part of the challenge with using AMD and virtualizing is that AMD, you're right, does do a check to see if it's virtualized. And so a lot of, there are ways around that. And so Proxmox gives you a way, Unray gives you a way to kind of, trick the guest and the video card into thinking it's not being virtualized because they want you to buy their enterprise class cards, which is total, I think, garbage. But I guess I understand why. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they wouldn't have a separate product if they didn't want you to do that. Rohanan, hey, Rohanan DS, thanks so much for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. i4, so going back here, you said in your video that you used to power from the PCI slot. How much of that power can you even draw from a mainboard like that? How many GPUs do you insert like that? Good question. So when I originally bought these GPUs, it was for my Dell R710. And the Dell R710 has a very specific requirement that says when it powers on, it cannot draw more than 25 watts at first. And so that's why in my Dell R710, there was no way to get external power to a traditional video card that requires, an external power pin without splicing wires. And I was like, I'm not, I just got this server. I'm not going to cut this whole thing up. Well, I ended up cutting it up a little bit, but that's besides the point. So I found these cards. I took a chance, and when they power on, they draw less than 25 watts. Just to get them going, and then after that they'll ramp up depending on what they need. So I have two of those, and then eventually I moved those into the motherboard that it's in now, which is my Asus. I think it's A97 Pro, but was a gaming, a higher end gaming motherboard, which could do 3-way SLI. Obviously, you would want to or have to draw power from your power supply, but what's the max? I'm not sure. I could probably do 3. I could probably put 3 in there. I think no problem. Those types of cards that don't draw external power. And again, the reason why I chose them and the reason why I'm going to stick with them is because one day they're going to go back into a server, like a my Dell R710, maybe sooner than later, because and since they don't require external power, I don't have to figure out how to get power to them. And but yeah, you know, are they the most powerful things in the world? No. Can they run 1080p 60 frames per second games? Yeah. You know, I can use them for Steam and home streaming. I can use it for video encoding. I thought about just making, you know, Adobe Media Encoder server where, you know, it would just basically do my proxies or do my encoding for me, but it kind of seemed like too specialized. So, but they're pretty good. Like the 1650 in general is awesome. That's like everyone's budget pick. Well, it's the 1660 Super. That's the one that most people, like gamers on a budget, go with the GTX 1660 Super, which is only a little more powerful than the 1650 that I have. But at a little bit of a premium. And so me personally, I know I've said this, probably sound like a broken record, but I needed the NVENC encoder. I didn't need any, barely any 3D GPU performance. I just needed NVENC encoder, which on the newer ones gives me Turing architecture, which is much more efficient than previous. So, that single rate, yep. Team Green anymore? Yeah, I agree. Do they play nice? I think Gorfy answered that. Yeah, they don't play nice together, and you guys kind of talked about this. You know, it goes back to how you have to, things you have to do on Proxmox or things that Unraid does for you to hide that video card. It's basically hiding the CPU. Something about the CPU, it's telling that guest that, hey, I'm not virtualized. So different processor type or something, or in the BIOS for that virtual machine. But once you get around that, it's awesome. And yeah, I have a video on it, and I'm not gonna say it's still easy. It's still tough, and it's a lot of trial and error. But when I went to do it, like there was barely any documentation anywhere. Like it was like, I had a collection of like 5 posts on the internet, some of which were outdated for older versions of Proxmox. And I just said, you know what, I'm gonna figure this out and document it. And then I ended up making a video on it. So it's doable. It still is doable. I mean, even to test my theory, when I built my second Proxmox server, I had to do it all over again. And it was hard all over again. I thought it's gonna be easy this time. I have all this documentation, I have copies of my QEMU, conf file, and it was still hard. So not gonna lie, it's still tough. Hi everyone, hey, TFAT. I got it right this time. TFAT, how's it going? Good to see you. Welcome back. The power from the PCI is an interesting one to me because the GPUs often power a connector on the side just to force people to use a 4U case instead of a 3U. Yeah. That's huge for a company, and that's why the server GPUs have a connector in the back. Yeah, totally. That's a good observation. But yeah, I've done, for my server builds, I always get one that draws power from the PCI Express slot. And, if I need something more powerful or I need a Quadro in the future, then, or just, a 10, whatever, my 1080 here one day wants to go in my server, that'll be tough. But, I'll cross that bridge when I get there. And then it depends on the hardware you're using. Lots of variables. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, like, and it's tough to plan a lot of stuff like that, like far in advance. If I would have, I don't know, a year ago, if you would have said, hey, you're going to have a Dell R710 in your basement, I would say, no way. I mean, I'd be like, sweet, I can't wait, but I'd still be like, what am I going to use that for? And, in the last 7 months, like my needs have totally exploded due to a lot of the stuff that I'm doing now. So it's, and it's hard to plan those things too, in general. 3U case, that's interesting. I know 4U, and I know 2U, and I know 1U. I'm trying to think of like a server that I've seen that's a 3U, and I don't spend a ton of time in data centers, so that's interesting to think about. because like on my 2U case, you know, it has PCI Express riser, and riser comes out. It's like a daughter board riser card with additional PCI Express slots, and you're able to, you know, not need to go as tall because you have a riser card that you can then, you know, cut over 90 degrees, 90, 45. So yeah, which is what's in my Dell R710 now, you know, has that riser card. Granted, I can't fit 2 video cards in that one riser card. And I had to modify the riser card too. So when I said I didn't cut things, I did cut one thing. Because sometimes you'll see in those riser cards or in older servers, they only give you like a slot for PCI Express, is that 8x? And then cards are 16x. And so what I did was end up shaving off the back of that slot so I can fit a 16x card in there. And I was super scared, like, oh my gosh, I'm totally gonna destroy this whole thing. But it worked perfect. And my card didn't need that bandwidth anyways. My 16x card could run at 8x totally fine. So it was awesome. 3U case is barely high enough to fit a PCI card normally, but no more room on top to connect a cable. Okay, yeah, that's where I think riser cards, I think a lot of servers use the riser cards so then they're not vertical, you know, they're going at a 45, they're going, you know, horizontal with the server instead of perpendicular. You know, instead of going like this, you know, then they get a riser card and then they, you know, plug into that riser card. That's what I've seen. I'm considering getting an R710. However, the CPUs always appear to be really old, like circa 2010. Well, I mean, the server is old. And are those sufficient, or are there newer generations, the R10, that have newer CPUs? To answer that question, I'm not sure. I know that when I looked into this originally, there is, you know, you're limited by the newest processor for that socket. And so the newest processor for that socket is probably within a year or two of that server coming out. And this is just me speculating in general. So I have a pretty decent one. I think I have dual sockets. Both of them are the, you know, 2.93 gigahertz and 6 core with hyperthreading. But they're sufficient for what I do. Like in you know, I have Blue Iris running as a virtual machine on one, which uses a lot of resources. You know, 3 instances of Rancher. My network firewall's in there, so XG firewalls are running in there. And these are all sharing the same CPU. And I'm nowhere near like tapping out that CPU. Whether or not, you know, it's efficient enough is a different question. But I think it boils down to is 3 gigahertz, a single CPU 3 gigahertz, you know, enough, you know, by itself, single threaded, is that enough for the application that you're running? And for me, like even outside of, you know, hyperthreading and just multiple cores, yeah, it is for me. But, you know, I mean, that's just my experience, but if I could do it all over again, would I get an R710? I think that's a good question to ask. And I think the answer is depends. If I would have known, so I have very specialized needs, but yeah, if I could do it all over again, I might get possibly a 720, or depending on the price. They were expensive when I bought my 710, so I didn't. But I wanted, I think mine has PCI Express 2 lanes instead of 3. I think I need to look into that. But I think, and so, but for me, not a huge deal. But for future, you know, I would want at least PCI Express 3. But for me and the throughput I'm putting through those things, the PCI Express slots, not a big deal. If you get the chance, could you tell me what your CPU have? I'll compare against some eBay listings. Hey, Home Lab Anu, if you want to see my CPU, just grab my latest video. Just do !vid and it's all there. I mean, I can go look at it, but it's also there too. That'd be the best way to see all of my hardware. So yeah, and so the one I did last week was hardware only of all of my equipment. And the one I did this week was all of the software running on top of it. But I can't remember. X5670, I'm totally guessing. Yeah, it's hard for me to keep track of like model numbers of all the stuff I have now. I used to be pretty good at it, and then I got too much stuff. And so now I'm like, okay, that information, I can store that away for later. I know where to find it. I've been doing that a lot lately. If I know how to find information, I just try not to think about it, so I can fit room for, I don't know, problems I need to figure out. But this is going too far. But yeah, it's there. Home Avenue. You can also build your own server. Yep, with normal hardware. It's much better for people like us to find spare parts. If things break, it's cheaper. Bought a Threadripper 1950, motherboard 32 gigs, 650, and how that would work on this hardware. I totally agree. And for that reason, like in Twitch right now, if you scroll down in my panels, and you go to gear, I have a whole bunch of gear that I can recommend. And one of them is building your own server, using not necessarily a Threadripper, but a Ryzen 3 if you wanted to go ultra cheap. But yeah, Threadripper would be totally awesome too. And it's super cheap. Yeah, if you want to use, I'm a huge fan of like commodity hardware too, and consumer grade. The only reason why I did enterprise grade for my server is because it came with exactly everything I needed, and I can get it in a 2U factor. And prior to that, I had this big Corsair cube case, and I was out of, I was out of space, and not necessarily, I was out of I couldn't fit any more hard drives in there. I had hard drives basically duct tape everywhere you could think. More duct tape, but you get the point. But I ran out of RAM. And that was one of the things I think that you'll run into too if you build your own server. This is where you might want to consider buying old enterprise gear, is because you'll get a lot more RAM. And if you buy a newer motherboard now, you're going to get probably a max of 4 slots, unless you spend more. Then you'll get 8 slots. But now you're getting into, prosumer or enterprise gear. And then that RAM is super expensive. If you want 128 gigs of RAM, it's not going to be cheap. If you want anything more than 32, it's not going to be cheap. 64 is going to be, it's not cheap. And so if you have 4 DIMM slots, to get 128, you're doing, what is that, 32 gig DIMMs? So 4 32 gig DIMMs, it's not going to be cheap. And that's if the motherboard does support 128 gigs of RAM. And so these are all of the things I had to think of when I was building my own server. Like, I want more RAM than I have now. And so 64 didn't seem like a good jump. I had 32. I was like, I'm not going to build out all this infrastructure just to get 64 gigs more of RAM. And then that's when I was like, okay, well, how do I do 128? All the options, a year ago were super expensive, and they still are today. And that's where I was like, okay, I'm not going to spend like $2,000-$3,000 right now to get me by. And so that's kind of what my Dell R710 is now. It's to get me by with a ton of RAM and a ton of processor speed. And like I said, like in 6 months, I do want to build my own at some point, like my PC conversion server. But I also want to make sure too that I'm not just overspending. Overspending or building it just to build it, because money's not cheap. You know what I mean? It's all my own money, so and it's all your own money too. So I'd say there's always going to be a trade-off for what you care about. So sorry I rambled, but it just kind of reminded me. You asking these questions reminded me of the same challenges I had to go through when I was building my servers, and CPU and RAM were my top 2 priorities. What it looked like, what it came like, form factor, not really. But if you can find an old enterprise server maxed out to the gills for $600-$700, ooh, that's a tough deal to pass up. Versus and then the resale value on that stuff's pretty decent too, especially on Craigslist, because people buying it from eBay, you could get a good deal. Buying it from Amazon, you may or may not get a good deal. But when you sell on Craigslist, people love to be able to pick up stuff today, especially servers. You know, server gear. I found a RAID adapter and on Craigslist that I never thought would be there, and I was like, dude, I will be there in 15 minutes. And I think it's the same thing with, you know, used server gear, is that it's so rare on Craigslist, at least in my area, that, you know, unless it's totally overpriced stuff that's been sitting there for 6 months, people are on it, you know. And so that's how I was when I was looking for server gear. I was like, the first one who posts anything close to a Dell R710 that has what I want, I'm buying it, you know. And so these are all the things I think about. So anyways, long story short, when I go to sell it, I don't think I'll have a problem selling it for close to the same price that I bought it for, because I feel like the big depreciation has already happened. It was way before I bought it. And so even if it depreciates 10, 20%, you know, I lose what, $100, not even $100. And I got to use it for a year and a half. And I honestly think I'll be able to sell it close to what I bought it for anyways, because I'm local. So anyways, all things to think about. Building new, awesome. Buying used, awesome. I just do, you know, you just have to think about what's important to you in your next build. So long story. I need Thasian in here so he can throw in some cool story bobs in here. That's when I knew. I feel like those are the kind of, wrap it up emojis. How do you handle remote management? Okay, that's to iForce. Me personally, yep, I use iDRAC, which is kind of nice, but I felt like iDRAC is cool to have, but I haven't used it a ton. The only time I really did use it for what it was worth were 2 times. 1 to flash the firmware, and then 2 to install the OS for the first time, but not the second time. After that, I was like, no, I want to sit in front of this thing and you know, hit enter, hit F1 to continue all that stuff. But it's super nice for doing remote management for the install the first time, because you can actually mount an ISO from your machine, which was cool. I didn't need a disk. I didn't need a USB key. You know, launch the iDRAC thing. You had to install some really old crusty version of Java on the older ones, but you can get it to work. And then you can mount the ISO. So I mount the Proxmox ISO on this PC, launch it, it'll boot from it over the network, and I'm, you know, walking through, you know, what you'd see on the screen. So cool, high cool factor, you know, working on machines for so long. I thought that was like the icing on the cake. I was like, once I get, you know, remote management, I've made it, you know, because, but you know, it definitely has a cool factor, and it's super nice. For me, yeah, super nice. But I'd be in trouble though, because my VPN runs inside of the same server I'm actually trying to work on. So if that if that server's down, I can't even VPN in. So, but yeah, I think I have a solution. I need some more continuity because my router's inside of that server. But yeah, good. Yeah, these are good things to think about. I'm so glad you guys are asking these questions, because these, like, I love to think about this stuff, and hopefully, you know, my experience helps, or maybe not. Doesn't. I'm sorry. TechnoDim, that's why I got the Threadripper. It has 8 RAM slots. Sweet. Yeah, the more DIMM slots you have, the better, because then the cost of each individual DIMM will be cheaper. So you can get, you know, then you can get 128 gigs of RAM over 16.8. My math right now, 32, 64, 128. Yeah, I think so. But anyways, moral of the story is the more slots you have, the better, because then the cheaper the RAM will be that you need to put in there. You know, if you try to buy 128 gigs of RAM over 4 DIMMs and 32 gig modules, it's going to be more expensive than, you know, 8 16s, I think. In general, you know, the higher the density, the more expensive they're going to be. i4, so okay, seems like right now home server X99 workstation boards with a bunch of DDR3 are a nice middle of the ground. Yeah, good to know. Yeah, Kraft talks about X99 a ton. Yeah, I totally agree. If you can nab one and get a Xeon for it, and then or a pair of Xeons or one Xeon and grow as you need, if that board supports multiple sockets, I'm pretty sure it probably will. And then yeah, buy DDR3 as you go. That's an awesome option. You can grow as you go. I mean, when I was in college, I had a dual. I bought a dual CPU motherboard, AMD MP, thinking one day I'll buy my second processor. And that day came like 4 years later, and I was like, finally, I can put another processor in there. And the thing ran so hot, I was like, what am I even doing? But anyways, that's dueling aside, but I totally agree. Because then if you fill 4 slots, get 64 for now, or get 128 for now, and fill 4 slots, fill 1 socket, and grow as you go. That sounds awesome. I also once used a OS with just TeamViewer running over that I connected to my other things at home. Yeah, I've done the same thing. I've done the same thing too. Before I had a good VPN solution. I keep TeamViewer on one machine, remote into there, and then from there remote into everything else. But yeah, I've done the same thing. But now that I have semi-decent, I mean, I've always had okay internet, but now that I have a great VPN solution, I just VPN every time now. But yeah, totally, I've done it. It's like a little, it's like your launch pad back into home, remote into the one machine that then has access to everything else, so then you don't have to open ports on everything. Yeah, totally agree. Been there. I also, Gorfy, yeah, running a X399 myself, only the 1920X, but I can upgrade to the 2990WX. Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, sweet when you have an awesome upgrade path like that. Yeah, older X99 boards are a really good deal, especially if your use case might not expand much. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it's I'm a huge fan though of just do what works for you guys. But yeah, always think of your upgrade plan. Like don't build yourself into a corner, unless what you buy is a good price, and you understand like the max throughput you're going to get through this thing. Like Dell R710, I bought it maxed out because I'm like, I'm not going to upgrade anything. Although, I added some PCI devices and swapped out hard drives, but I was like, CPUs, RAM, maxed out, and I won't have to worry about it until I'm going to replace it. But that's because it's old and used, and but I got I thought a pretty good deal on it. Yeah, awesome. Man, this stream was so awesome. Thank you so much. I hate to cut it short, but I actually have a call in 30 seconds, 5:30. But anyways, thank you so much for hanging out. Man, Gorfy, thanks for the gifted sub. There were a lot of follows in there. Thank you to all the humans that followed me. Thank you also to the bots that followed me, except for you broke my bot and you broke, it looks like, Stream Elements. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate hanging out and talking. Anytime I can stay on this screen and not play a game or do coding is a good sign. It means that we're having good conversations and I get to engage with you guys. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great weekend. I will be back on Tuesday, but I'm always on Twitter and Discord, so you guys know how to find me. Thank you so much. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's see you on Discord. Gorfy, again, thanks for the gifted sub. Thanks for helping me get that event, so then I can upgrade our open source Twitch bot. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, iForce. Welcome. Thank you for being here, asking all great questions. Thank you, everyone else hanging out. Have a good night, and I'll see you on Discord or Twitter. Adios.